Beginning more with geologic upheavals and climatic shifts than with any settlement, Przemskut's history has existed far beyond our own. Our presence is but a small fraction of its time, yet humanity has altered, in many cases irreversibly, what has come to be over many millenniums. The name itself is a glimpse through its now placid waters into the river's past. The word Przemskut comes from the native Abenaki people who once lived along its banks, and refers to the river as bearing many falls, or a place of rough waters. It was along these falls and at the confluences with its tributaries that the native peoples flourished.
The Abenaki really needed this river in order to survive. It was their major food source. And as the colonists came in, as they began to dam up the river, it really impacted greatly that food source, and they found that they were not able to survive.
So Chief Poland walked to Boston and petitioned the colonial government down there for fish passage on the dams. It was ordered. It either didn't function well or was never done because he went to Boston again and got no satisfaction and came back and was going to drive the settlers out.
And they had a number of skirmishes along here over the dams and over the expansionism of the colonists. And finally, one of the major chiefs, Chief Pullen, was killed along the river, which really signaled then the demise of the Abenaki here.
These dams took a once swift-flowing cold water river with a vibrant fishery and blocked all migratory fish. They submerged most of the falls and rapids from which the river gained its name and caused the extinction of what was thought to be a separate species of freshwater salmon known as the Przemskut jumper. Few of the dam's impoundments are used to their maximum benefit recreationally. Many of them lack portages, and the power that is produced is minor relative to other available sources.
Well, right now the river's almost completely dammed from the head of tide all the way up to Sebago. There's virtually no free-flowing water left on it. Most of the native fish species are gone.
A good part of the Przemskut River does not function really as a river, but it isn't a complete lake or pond habitat either. So you have this artificial in-between of not a river habitat, not a lake habitat. So you don't have a good river fishery, you don't have a good warm water lake type fishery.
The Friends of the Przemskut River are reviving a struggle and a vision that was last carried by Chief Pullen and the Abenaki. In this spirit, the Friends have launched the Przemskut River Renewal Initiative.
Currently, there are 5 dams on the Przemskut River that are up for relicensing with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
We are asking that 3 of them being removed and fish passage being put at the other 2. It's a rather historic opportunity given that the first dam on the river is being removed next summer, and that would open up the river up to Cumberland Mills, and then the next 5 consecutive hydro dams are what are being relicensed. So we have sort of a historic opportunity to actually revive a lot of this river.
All these licenses they won't come up again for probably 35 to 40 years. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have the river and its use reassessed.
The Friends' position balances energy production with river restoration. Together, the 3 dams that the Friends are proposing to be removed, Sakarapa, Malison, and Little Falls, are capable of producing only 3.15 megawatts of electricity. Their removal restores nearly 16 miles of river, while leaving 75% of the river's hydropower capacity intact. South African Pulp and Paper International, which owns the dams, has a biomass generator at its Westbrook mill that has 65 megawatts of capacity. The newly built gas-fired plant in Westbrook is coming online with a capacity of more than 500 megawatts. Cost to benefit, these small dams are simply economically and ecologically unjustifiable. Their removal will produce major benefits for the surrounding communities. A free-running river would increase the river's diversity, expand recreational uses like whitewater kayaking, fishing, and wildlife watching, and create opportunities for economic development.
I grew up in Westbrook, actually. Spent 30 years in that community. My dad was a Westbrook paper mill worker. I think a lot of communities are now looking more towards that river as a plus. And I know that the city of Westbrook has recently embarked upon a downtown revitalization using that river as their centerpiece. And for a town official to say to a business owner, or a business owner to say to a potential employee, this is the advantage that we can give you. You know, you have a great community, a good school system, close to the cultural areas, the opportunities of Portland, yet in your downtown is this incredible, restored, vibrant, healthy river. There could be a waterfall in the middle of downtown Westbrook with sea-run fish leaping up over the falls. I mean, you really can't put a dollar sign on that kind of quality of life.
Of recreation, the river has just a myriad of activities ranging from swimming, canoeing, hiking along the banks. The Maine Department of Fish and Wildlife has an aggressive stocking program on the upper Presumpscot. There is a fly fishing only section that is open year-round. Wonderful bird watching opportunity. The bald eagles, the kingfishers that fly up and down the river, the great blue heron, all the waterfowl, the ducks, the geese, mergansers. There's just an excellent opportunity to see an awful lot of wildlife. There's otters, there's beaver, a lot of deer along the banks.
The benefits of a restored river, of a cold water fishery, of people coming in and recreating there, of needing services that recreation would bring, whether it's selling kayaks and canoes, you know, food for someone that's going to take their lunch and go down the river, or fishing supplies. There are a lot of benefits, and I think a big portion of it is just quality of life. You know, this is the place where I live, and this is an incredible resource that is at my back door. And I think we've kind of overlooked it.
The Kennebec River sets an example for the Presumpscot, having one of its dams removed last year. And it was really the first time that has happened against the wishes of the owners, to have a dam removed off of a river for the health of the river.
Didn't want it to happen. Didn't think there'd be any water left. I thought I had a piece of property that was real nice that was going to end up being not so nice.
As in every community, people had concerns about the unknown. The positive changes are taking people by surprise, even turning ardent opponents into supporters.
Just the opposite. My water stayed the same. More fishing, more uses of the river. Definite improvement. I had to eat some crow. I didn't think I was going to, but it did. So, and I think if you give everything a chance, nature will straighten itself out, but you got to give it a chance.
So in a sense, that is the major precedent. This effort with the Presumpscot kind of expands upon that. Although the dams are smaller, they are consecutive, and they do not simply go into hydro production, but they're hydro production for one specific mill. And in that sense, I think that the percentage of the river, overall river, that would be restored would be far greater than that happened with the Kennebec.
As we participate in the relicensing process, Friends of the Presumpscot River need public support as well as financial contributions for our efforts. It is vitally important that the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and the state of Maine and its agencies know that the public supports dam removal and fish passage on the Presumpscot. Our needs for this project also include professional scientific expertise, legal counsel, staff, and organizational support. This effort is a major undertaking and an uphill battle. Much of the work is legalistic and highly technical, and although we are a strong and dedicated organization, it is work that is beyond the abilities of volunteers alone. For this, we are asking for your support.
And what we're trying to do is to restore some semblance of balance to the river. It's fine to use the river for power production, but not so that it precludes every other use.
Me being a fisherman, the thought of When you read in the news, declining salmon populations, Atlantic salmon in Maine were put on the endangered species list. And then you look at the Presumpscot River, which is in southern Maine, an ideal location. We have Casco Bay here. It goes up to Sebago Lake, which is a nice, beautiful, large lake. Lots of tributaries run into it. And then you look and there are 9 dams, and not a single one of them have fish passage. So even if there were a salmon that wanted to go up there, they can't. So at the very least, we need a way to get those fish back in the river.
I see a very clean, very clear river, full of rapids, ledges, the kind of place you'd want to go swimming on a really hot day. I see it full of fish. I see it full of salmon. I see it full of shad, river herring, all these fish that essentially fed the Indian tribe that was here. There's 30,000 alewives coming in the lower river right now. They're still here. They've never left. They just can't get upriver. There's shad in the river too. There's a few salmon come in now and then, but they can't get up any farther than the lower part down near Falmouth. So all the seeds are there. It's just waiting it's waiting for us to say, okay, let's open the box and have our river back.
In the words of former United States Senator George Mitchell, it's not often that we're given a second chance with something as fragile as a river. Let's keep working on it. After all, the Presumpscot has worked in the service of mankind for hundreds of years. It's time we return that favor.